We've got the 1988 Long Beach State Hall of Fame inductee and Boston Celtic champion of the 1977 year, Glen McDonald, here with us in the 22 West studios. Make sure to stick around in the next episode of Sideline Sports Podcast. Welcome to Sideline Sports Podcast. I am the host, Alex Naveja, and if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Sideline Sports Podcast. I am your host, Alex Naveja, and with me today is Glen McDonald, who is my former boss, which makes things pretty interesting. He knows about my work ethic. He knows how it is. He used to be my boss when I used to work at Long Beach State in the intramurals desk, for those of you that are familiar with Long Beach State. But a little background about Glen. He used to play men's hoops here at Long Beach State. He actually got inducted to the Men's Basketball Hall of Fame in 1988 class there, or in 1988, and his jersey is even on top of the Raptors in the Walter Pyramid, and also got picked up by the Boston Celtics. Then won the championship in 1977. So here we have it, Glen McDonald. But before we talk about Glen, this episode of Sideline Sports Podcast was brought to you by Lean Mean Meals. Make sure to pick up your meal prep with Mitch Dominguez today. He has you with your breakfast, your lunch, and even with your dinner. He even has you with cold brew coffee and detox juices. Make sure to use my promo code SIDELINE10 to save yourself 10% off on all of your orders. I'll make sure to put all that info along with the website down in the description down below. But without further ado, let's get things started, where if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. Glen, how are you doing today? And you know what? How does it feel to come back from Chicago? You were just at the All-Star game, correct?
Oh, my God, Alex. It was crazy there. You know, the weather was unbelievable. I mean, cold, unbelievable. You know, it wasn't like the pleasant atmosphere and the weather that we have out here in California. It got to 1 degree, and
wow.
It was crazy, but we had a great time. I got a chance to see a lot of my former teammates, and then, you know, my wife, she goes with me as well, and they have a they have an organization that, you know, for the wives, you know, and they do a lot of charity work, and so she got a chance to see a lot of her friends, and so it was great. We had a really good time.
So, I mean, you got to see real quick, who were you rooting for? Were you Team LeBron or were you Team Giannis when you were there?
I was Team Giannis, you know.
Of course, being from the East.
Well, not so much the East, because it's just the fact that the players he had on his team, you know, he had the blue-collar workers, you know. So, I mean, LeBron, he had like this supposed superstars, all basically. And but Giannis, he wants the guys that are going to come out and play hard every night, because that's how he does. Every night he's going to play hard, give 100%. And those are the kind of players he brought on with that team. And so it turned out to be an unbelievable game, you know. So, you know, Team LeBron pulled it out. But it was a hard-fought game, and it was much more entertaining than any other All-Star game that I've seen, you know, because of the fact that they actually played basketball. You know, they weren't just letting people score. They really had a meaning behind the whole situation, because you know, every quarter that they won, you know, the money went to a foundation, and so it meant something to them, and they came out and played hard.
So speaking of playing hard, Glen, I'd really like to know that the trials that you really had to go through. I mean, you know, playing with Long Beach State and then getting picked up with the Celtics. Tell us how that journey all started out.
Whoa, it's been a long time, you know, but it started out basically. I came from a little town in Illinois called Kewanee, Illinois. We moved out to California when I was 13. My mother, it was such a small town, you know, she just felt that we needed to get to a place where she could get a better job, those type of things. And I was the only man in the house, because my father, you know, he had bailed, basically. And so when we got out here, I was upset at the fact that we moved, because, you know, I had friends back there and everything. My mother loved me playing sports and, you know, getting involved in sports. And that was around 13 years old. And I was just starting to get ready to play little team basketball, because I started just messing around with that a little bit. And I was playing football. You know, at that time you still played there as tackle football. And but anyway, we moved to California. And my punishment to her was I wasn't going to play any sports. So when I got out to California, I'd go to playgrounds and play, but I wouldn't play team organized sports. Because, I was punishing her, because, she liked to come to the games and see me play, and I'm like, I'm not playing. I didn't want to move in the first place. And then one of the guys on the, right before I was going to high school, because I was in the 8th grade at that time, and then right when I was getting ready to go to high school, the guy asked me if I was going to try out for the team, because I was playing well against the different players, but it was just pickup, And so I told him, no, I'm not trying out for the team, I'm not playing. And so right then he told me that, well, you probably couldn't make our lowest team anyway. And so I thought about that all night I thought about that, and then trials were coming up. And so I was like, I'm going to try out for this team. So I tried out for the team, made the first team on the varsity, and took his spot basically, because he had been a starter. And so I ended up coming in and taking his spot, and the kind of journey just went from there, So, the first year I was a sophomore, because that's when at that time we started high school in 10th grade. And so I started as a 10th grader, 11th grader, and I just got better and played all the time. And one of those kind of guys, you walk down the street, have a basketball, bouncing it around, and it was just and finally, school started showing me notice, Kansas, Arizona, Maryland, SC, and so a lot of those started school, but then Long Beach State kind of snuck in. And Long Beach was the kind of school that I saw they were just starting to come around. They were starting to get better, and because they were never really heard of, and so. But then they just all of a sudden popped up on the map, and people were like, "Who is Long Beach?" That type of thing. And I started thinking that this team is the kind of team that might be able to beat UCLA, and so that was my goal, was to beat UCLA, because I was one of those kind of guys that was an underdog kind of person. I root for underdogs. And so I didn't like UCLA. I didn't like the Celtics, because they always won all the time.
Right.
And so that was a situation that I ended up coming to Long Beach, because I really felt that this could be a build-up for a team that could beat UCLA. So my freshman year, at that time you had to play freshman basketball. You couldn't play varsity. You played freshman basketball. You played against other freshman teams. You played against junior colleges. But that year is the year that we lost to UCLA by 1 point.
Wow.
in the regionals. And so right from that point on, I just said, God, this is the kind of team. I came to the right school, because I think we could end up doing something big. And it just happened from there. But even though I was like the player of the year in high school, when I got to Long Beach, because I averaged almost right at 30 points a game in high school. And then Long Beach, when I got here, my first year playing varsity, I barely stepped foot on the floor. It was like, man, I'm averaging all these.
Right.
I can't even get out here on the floor and play. So I'd play a minute here. I'd get in near the end of games and stuff like that. That was right at the beginning of the season, until we played University Pacific, and they were in our conference at that time. And one of their guards scored 36 points against us, and they beat us, which was unusual, but they beat us. So the very next week, we had to play them again at our place down here in the goal line. And one of the players said, Coach, because Jerry Tarkanian was our coach, and he told him, hey, Tark, Glen can guard that guy. And so he says, he said, do you think you can guard? I said, Coach, I didn't just play offense when I was in high school. I was a defensive offense. The guy asked, Tark asked me if I could play defense against this guy, and I said, hey, doesn't matter, defense, offense, I just want to be on the floor. So we played that game, and he only scored 6 points.
Oh, wow.
And so from that point on, I was the starting guard. The other guy, I just ended up moving the other guy out, because, he liked to score a lot. We already had scorers, and Tark needed somebody who could focus on defense. And so that from that point on, I was known as a defensive player for the Long Beach State. And I ended up being one of the top defensive players in the nation. I was recognized where I win. People say, oh, who's the Glen guarding today? That type of thing. So sometimes I guard forward, sometimes I guard a guard. There were times I had to play against a post player. But it became just a passion of mine to not let people score against me, And so that's what happened from that point on. And so I didn't really average a lot of points until my senior year, when Jerry Tarkanian left and went to UNLV. And then Lute Olson, who used to coach, who ended up coaching at Arizona, he came in to replace Tarkanian. And then he says, Glen, I need you to start scoring. I remember when you were in high school, you used to score, so I need you to start scoring. So I went from averaging like 2 points a game my junior year to 15 points a game my senior year,
Wow.
And
Good
so,
job.
and I never came out of games unless I was in foul trouble, which was rare, but I was pretty much a leader on the team, and so that's where the Celtics and everybody kind of started seeing me as a guy that never comes out of the games. He's coachable. He can score. He can play defense. So that's where that came up. So I knew that the Celtics as well as Milwaukee Bucks were really interested in me. And so then when draft day came up, my coach called me and told me that you got drafted because they didn't have all this fanfare that they have now, the
Right.
green room and all
Different.
that stuff. It was just different. They just kind of contact people and let them know that they got drafted. And so my coach contacted me and said, hey, you got drafted by the Celtics in the first round. And me, at that time, I was moving into another apartment. That summer I was moving into another apartment. So I said, oh, that's great. Let me call you back. I'm moving right now. And he goes, did you just try to say you just got drafted by the Celtics? So he got really irritated, as one of my assistant coaches. He said, I can't believe what you did. I said, Coach, let me call you back. I'm moving. And so finally when I finished, I called him back. But I thought about it, the whole time. But I was really irritated because it was the Celtics. Because they're, I wanted to go to a team that's up-and-coming team, not somebody that's winning, always winning. And so that was how everything progressed in that way. And then when I got to Boston for the visit and, negotiating contracts and all that kind of stuff, I started looking at the banners and realizing that, I felt it was something great, being able to go to a team that possibly could win a national championship. And, the NBA championship is unbelievable to have. And so in my second year there, we ended up winning the championship. So that's how it all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, really crazy.
So we're actually going to take a quick break here inside of the 22 West Studios. But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the championship that Glen won in 1977 and a little bit more about Glen's basketball journey as you're watching Sideline Sports Podcast, where if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. We'll be right back.
This is Jacob Huey, first baseman for the Long Beach State Dirtbags, and you're watching Sideline Sports Podcast.
Welcome back to Sideline Sports Podcast presented by Lean Mean Meals. I'm Alex Naveja, and with me today is Glen McDonald. But you know what? Glen correcting me in between the break, telling me he's a 1976 champion, not a 1977 champion. So that's my apologies. And you know what? This will make a great transition to talk a little bit about that triumphant year for Glen, 1976. But even then, before that, Glen, when you got drafted, we were talking about you getting picked up by the Boston Celtics. You saying that, not exactly the team you wanted to. Who was the team that you really did want to get drafted by?
At that time, I didn't even know if I was going to get drafted. So, it was a situation that, I was playing well, but I wasn't really sure if I was going to get drafted. I always said there's a possibility that I might get drafted now that, we had our team was great. We were 24-2 that year. So we were one of the top-ranked teams. I think we were ranked at number 3 in the nation at that time.
Wow.
So I knew people were really interested and started showing interest in me. But in regards to me thinking about what team I wanted to play for, I didn't have a real team that I really wanted to play for. If anything, I don't remember that, but it would have been just to be able to stay home with the Lakers, if anything at all. But they were the same way as the Celtics. They were winners too, so. I just wanted to go someplace that I thought that maybe I could make a difference on a team, one of those type of things. But overall, I didn't have a real team. I said, I hope this team, drafts me or anything like that at all.
Right. So let's take you back as we were talking about that 1976 year. What was it like? Did you have just like that gut feeling? Hey, this is the team. This is going to be our championship year at all? Or
no. I got a chance to play quite a bit, during that time. The first year in '74, the '74-'75 season, I got a chance to play quite a bit, but I kept getting injured. Just little injuries that would keep you out for a little bit. And then the second year, the '75-'76 year, the one we won the championship, you can see that the focus was just different. The energy on the whole team was just different. That we were probably going to be very, very good again. But in regards to winning the championship, it was so hard to say. then once we got into the regular season, you could tell that, this could be a championship year. And, everybody was very, very focused. It always was about team with the Celtics anyway. If you weren't a team player, then you weren't going to play. And so I got to the point where you could tell that we had a very, very chance to win that league, win the league and then go into the playoffs and possibly win the championship. It was just a gut feeling that, not that we were going to really win it that year, but I knew we had the ingredients to pull it off if we just stuck together and played the way we should play.
Right.
Yeah.
And for those of us that don't really get that experience, even see or even get to experience what it's like to play or even see an NBA finals and being a part of that, what did that feel like?
That was amazing. I mean, it really was, because just the energy level how it goes up once playoff starts. Even in practice, it gets more tougher and tougher. It's more physical, because now they know that once we get into games, people are coming after you. And it's still the Celtics. The Celtics, no matter what, have a target on their back. It's just Boston Celtics. Oh, we have to kill that team. They want to kill Boston Celtics. They don't want the Celtics to win another championship. They've got too many of them. So it was a situation that you just have to be aware and be ready, no matter what. And that's what focus was on when you have the veterans with John Havlicek and Don Nelson and Paul Silas and Dave Collins. They're all veterans, and they know what it takes to win the championship. And so, you just kind of fall in line with what they're doing. You have to step up in order for you to help win the championship. Right.
And when that winning moment happened in 1976, what did that feel like for you?
It was great for me because, the fifth game we went 6 games. The fifth game, I had a lot to do with winning that fifth game. I played a little bit in the first, couple quarters, and I didn't play any more of the rest of the game. And we got into a first overtime. I didn't play any in the first overtime. The second overtime, I didn't get a second in the second overtime. And then in the third overtime, one of our big-time players, Paul Silas, who's mainly a big rebounder and a great defensive player, he fouled out. So the guy who usually plays his position, because he's a power forward, I told him, hey, Paul just fouled out, get ready to go in, like that. And all of a sudden, the head coach, which is Tommy Heinsohn, he goes, Mac, get in there, So without even hesitating, when he said Mac, I just jumped up, and then he says, all right, run him. Because I was fast, I could run all day long, and I hadn't been in the game anyway, so I was really fresh. And so I go in and, I played the defense, and then, I got a quick bucket. Then he came back again, hit another shot, and, then we made 2 free throws, and then all of a sudden, we ended up winning the game by 1 point, and so.
Wow.
So it was one of those kind of situations I was, fortunate enough to get involved with. But then when we ended up winning the 6th game, we had to go to Phoenix, and we beat Phoenix, at Phoenix. And it was just, you're numb. Because, first of all, it's something that you've always wanted, to be in the NBA. And then not too many people really have NBA rings, have won championships. And then you get in there, and then you have an integral part of winning the whole thing. And it was just amazing, because that night after the 5th game, I couldn't even sleep that night, because I was like, wow, what did I just do? Because I get in there and do something positive, and, you do something where you tell your kids and everybody else, even with my kids and, when I'm coaching, just stay ready, because you never know when your number's going to be called, And so fortunately, I was ready when they put me in. And so what happens is, after you win the whole thing, I don't know. It was just one of those type of things. Is you're just numb, and you realize that you're an NBA champion. And so, but it's the greatest feeling ever. It really is. It's a great feeling, and you look back, and just when we were just in Chicago recently, Dave Collins, a couple of the veteran players that were there before, who were there before I got there to the Celtics, like, Glenn, man, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have got that championship. And,
wow, those big words.
So they tell me things like that, and it just. It just makes you realize that you did something positive, and people appreciate it. So I'm just blessed. Basically that's what it is.
Wow. So after you're done playing with the Celtics, you started to play overseas.
Mm-hmm.
as well. You said were playing over in the Philippines as well.
I played in Sweden for a year. I went over to Sweden because I got released from the Celtics. After that year, they kind of broke up the team pretty much. And I had a couple tryouts. I had a tryout with Phoenix, and had a great camp down there. But then they said we just couldn't. We just don't have some space for you. And so I was irritated with that. Well, why did you even bring me here when you knew you weren't going to keep me? And then a couple other teams had contacted me to come to their tryouts, but then they ended up not keeping their word. And all of a sudden did something different where I didn't even hear back from them. And so it was things like that. It was pretty irritating. So when I first got back here to Long Beach, I delivered beer. I was on a beer truck delivering beer, and I had just got married because what happened was we won the championship. We came back to Long Beach. I got married, went back to Boston, got cut. So I didn't have a job. It's I just got married. I'm supposed to take care of this woman, And so then when those things happen, it's like, I just got to work. I'm not too proud. I don't have that much pride. I got to work, take care of my family, And so then I got an opportunity somebody called me from Sweden, asked me if I'd be interested in coming over there and playing. So we went over there. I told my wife, let's go on the second honeymoon, So we went there and, had a great time. We ended up being the Swedish champions, and,
nice.
So we did a really good thing there. And then I had somebody contacted me about going to the Philippines, because I really wasn't going to go back to Sweden, because even though we won the championship, it's just something about it, I just didn't really want to be back over there. And so when somebody contacted me about the Philippines, I was like, I don't want to go play against midgets. That was just, I mean, I know it's wrong to say it like that, but that's what I said to myself. And finally, they kept saying, Glenn, you need to go. It's a great league over there. And so I went, visited, saw, Filipinos, the guys who were going to be on my team, people eye to eye, I'm like, oh, this is interesting, because you have that view of Filipinos all short, and I'm looking at guys eye to eye, and then I'm watching them play because I watched a couple of their games, and they're coming down their fast breaks, they're dunking on people, on the other Americans, I'm like, oh, this would be interesting. So I ended up, staying over there, and I ended up staying there for 6 years, so I played for 4 years, and then I coached for 2 years before I came back over here. But my first year, we won 2 championships, so it was like, okay, won the championship with Boston, great, come over here, won 2 championships. And the first championship we won, it was one of those games where 16 seconds, we're down 6, and we win the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's you don't hear about that in basketball.
Got a couple steals. I got a steal right at the end of the game. I got a steal, went down, took a shot, got fouled, made both free throws, and we went into overtime, and then we won the game in overtime. So so that one, and that championship there is the NBA championship is unbelievable, but that one there was more rewarding to me because I was really a part. If it wasn't for me on that team in general, just because of, I averaged a lot of points, and just I was the catalyst of that team, So that was my team, and we won the championship. But it still doesn't compare to anything with winning an NBA title at all. So,
Right.
And then we left there in '84 and came back here, to Long Beach because my son was getting ready to start school. We wanted him to start school in the States, so that's why we came back.
Mm-hmm. So you actually even did some coaching here at Long Beach as well for basketball, correct?
Yeah, when we got back in '84, I was like a volunteer assistant for the men's program, the men's basketball team. I did that for 2 years, and then I always look at it, I was like, okay, I'm not making any money, basically, and so the money I earn, I keep going into, but nothing's coming back in. So I told him I was going to find another job, so that I wasn't just, doing the part-time assistant thing.
Right.
And then the women's coach here, I had a good relationship with her players. And so one of her assistants was leaving, a full-time assistant, and so she asked me, did I want to take her spot? And so I told her, I said, oh, I'd love it. It doesn't matter, women, men, it doesn't matter, So I got involved with the women's program, and then I was there with her for 4 years, and then in '91 she left, and then I took over as the head coach, and I was the head coach with the women's program here at Long Beach State from '91 to '94.
Oh,
You know, to '95, and then got involved with the intramurals after that. You know, when I got released, and then I went into the intramurals, and 22 years at intramurals, that was it. Yeah, where I met you. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame was amazing, actually. You know, it was unexpected because usually the Hall of Fame is for people who've been All-Americans, you know, and those type of, you know, they've been recognized in that manner. You know, has set a lot of records at the school. I had no records at the school. You know, I wasn't an All-American, you know, anything like that. But I think that they just appreciated me, you know, my efforts on the court, and so it made me feel really, really good, you know, about that. And so I was fortunate and loved it. You know, I really did. You know, because it was really something that was extremely unexpected. So.
Mm-hmm. So now, last year, I believe,
Yeah.
now Long Beach State, now that you're a Hall of Famer, have now selected your number 20
Right.
to be hung up onto the Walter Pyramid Raptors. Now your number is alongside all these other Long Beach State greats, along with your former coach, Coach Tarkanian, also being up there. When you were there, witnessing all of that, what were your thoughts?
So it's one of those situations that you really don't believe is happening, because when I was told it was going to happen, Andy Fee, our athletic director, had contacted me, and he asked me, he says, "Hey Glenn, I have something to ask you," and I said, "Okay, Andy, what's going on?" He says that, "Would you like your number to be retired?" And I was just quiet for a minute. I said, "Okay, Andy, quit messing around. You know, you're playing around." He said, "No, I'm very, very serious." He says, "There's a lot of people, the boosters, a lot of the people around the community feel your number should be retired. And they've said that a lot of people have mentioned it in the past and it's never been done. From what I'm hearing, it should be done. Would you like it retired?" I said, "I would love it to be retired." You know, and so when he told me that, I was just excited about it. You know, it was one of those type of things that you kind of choke up a little bit. You know, you don't let all the tears come down.
Oh, right, of course.
But you choke up a little bit, and then you just say that you've been appreciated, you know, because you do things, you know, you play the game because you love the game. And then one of the reasons that I heard that it wasn't just about the basketball, you know, it was about my contact with the students on campus, you know, the people that come to my house, you know, if they need something, they know they can contact myself and my wife. You know, we're here for the students, basically, you know. And so it's more of a basketball and a humanitarian award to be put up in the rafters. And so that really made me really feel good that it just wasn't about me being a basketball player. It was about me being the person that I am, and what I try to project with, to other people and try to help as much as possible. So that was the biggest meaning to me, that it wasn't about you being a basketball player, because I feel I'm more than just a basketball player, a basketball coach, a basketball person. That's why sometimes you get irritated when you're around people sometimes and all they want to do is talk to you about sports as if that's the only thing you know. And so for them to recognize me as a humanitarian as well as a basketball player, it meant even more, to see my name up in the rafters and put the jersey up there, and along with some of the other people, the Ed Ratliff, Lucius Harris, and Brian Russell, those people, and as well as on the women's side, the Penny Tollers and Cindy Browns, and those people. It makes me feel, like, wow, I'm part of a real good club. So.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, of course, with all the connections that you made throughout those 22 years of being in intramurals, and I mean, me being one of them, and now that when Glenn retired, he would come into the intramurals desk, check out a basketball. Now, he's shooting around.
Yeah, I'm shooting around. When I first started coming into the rec center as a retired person, everybody was saying, I've never seen your legs before. And I have shorts on, and I'm like, my God, I never saw your legs before. But, you know, it's I love what I'm doing now. You know, I'm helping out couple kids over at Poly High School, and, you know, I do every now and then, you know, some of our group, we have the retired players, we have a chapter here in LA, and so we went over and did a clinic for the Lakewood Special Olympics, you know, did a clinic with them, and so it's just kind of day by day, just kind of figure out what you want to do, and, you know, just, I'm not in any rush. My wife keeps telling me I need to get another job, you know, I'm like, no, I'm retired. So
no, I'm relaxing.
I'm relaxing right now. If I get bored, then maybe I'll look into something different. But it's been good. Retirement's been good for me, and you know, I haven't done a lot of traveling yet, but you know that time will come. And you know, my son and his kids, you know, they live back in Boston. You know, so you know, I'm able to get him tickets whenever he wants to go to games, and I just call them and they give me tickets. And so it's been really good. It's been good. Mm-hmm. So. I've run into different people like yourself that work for me, and they're doing real well. And so, you know, I'm you know, proud to see what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I know somebody. You're gonna get on somebody.
Thank you.
You're gonna
Appreciate
get on
that,
somebody
Glenn.
Professional. You know, they're on that radio, Dodgers, Angels, somebody.
I appreciate that, Glenn. And you know what? I couldn't have done it without your teachings, without you bringing me into the intramurals desk and being able to, you know, be that role model for me to maybe one day be a championship, but not of a team, but, you know, a championship in life.
Right.
But I have one final question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You've established and you've done so much in your life. What was the biggest accomplishment? What was just your biggest accomplishment? Or what was your favorite accomplishment, I should say?
That's you know, aside from getting married, you know, and picking the right woman.
Of
you
course.
Know, aside from getting the right woman, you know, but I would think I think more so than anything is just with us sitting here right now, the communication I've made with so many, you know, young people, and then to be able to say, you know, I might have helped them a little bit, you know, because I've seen a lot of people a lot of students that have not been sure what they really want to do or don't think that they can do it, and I've been able to talk to them and say, you know, you got to go after it. If that's what you really want to do, you go after it, you know, and then to see them be successful and then come back to me and say, hey, Glenn, guess what I'm doing now? Remember when I was going to quit school and you told me? Those are the kind of things, you know, just the connection I've had with the students, you know, a lot of students on campus, and, you know, been able to help them decide what they really want to do. Mm-hmm. So that's what it would be.
Well, Glenn, we appreciate you so much for making an appearance here in the 22 West Studios and on Sideline Sports Podcast. And you know what? Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for those kind words. But that's all the time we have left here in this episode of Sideline Sports Podcast. And, of course, this episode was brought to you by Lean Mean Meals. Make sure to get your meal prep done with Mitch Dominguez. He has you with your breakfast, your lunch, and with your dinner. Make sure he also has you with detox juices and cold brew coffee. So use my promo code SIDELINE10 to save yourself some money. And, of course, I'll put all that information in the description down below. And, again, Glen McDonald, Long Beach State, 1976 Boston Celtics champion as well in 1988, Hall of Fame inductee to Long Beach State men's basketball. Thank you so much for being here with us, Glenn.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the time. And, of course, if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.